So now we are doing sausage party.
I feel like it's sausage party mixed with Holy Grail.
Okay. Yeah.
And VeggieTales.
So then it is a war movie. Hi.
Hey.
Welcome back to Logline. We're here today to bring you breaking news.
The Queen is dead.
The Queen is dead. And we're here to avenge her. Because she was... she exploded. On the toilet.
Hey, one time I had a dream.
Okay.
Where... So I was like hanging out with my family in the living room, and my dog was in front of me eating a cheeseburger, like a whole ass cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Like between me and the TV. And on the TV, there's news coverage about the Queen dying. That's it.
That was a dream?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Interesting dream.
But just imagine that. You're like dogs eating a whole ass cheeseburger, Queen's dead.
Uh-huh.
Kind of crazy.
It all lines up.
It is a little crazy. Anyways, welcome back to Logline. We are loglining it up. On today's episode, we have one Ben Dellheim.
Hello.
He's benning it up.
Bending it up. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Can we start over?
So we are, as a reminder, we like to either randomly generate prompts or generate log lines and run with them and figure out a story and characters. And by the end of the episode, we will come up with a log line and a title for our film.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Good.
Great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Wow.
Julian, do you have a random prompt for us? Or
Can
Ben, do you have a random prompt for us?
Yeah, I did it past 2 times. I feel like somebody else should do it. Get some new brain juice is flowing.
Anything going in this brain right now? I've been thinking of assortments of food lately.
Okay.
I've been thinking of cheeses.
Right.
We are in the dairy state.
Yes, this is true. Some people are saying this.
You know, I don't really know how I feel about like fruits and cheeses.
Right.
I know it's like a thing.
What
get
do you
like
mean? Give me an example.
Well, you get like a cranberry jack.
Okay.
You ever tried that?
No.
It's not great.
I like fruit and cheese.
Do you?
Yeah, like goat cheese with I think cranberries.
Yeah, I mean
cranberry is a popular cheese accompaniment.
ingredient.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right. What about? Okay. All right. What about wine and cheese?
Wine and cheese.
They do go well together.
Which is weird because you said fruit and cheese.
Mm-hmm. I think I just don't like the idea of completely mixing two food groups exclusively.
Right.
So, like, take like a charcuterie board.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Probably.
Charcuterie.
Oh.
Okay. But so, like, you have the cheeses, you have
Yeah.
the fruits,
Yeah.
jams, whatever, what have you. That makes sense to me. But you also have, like, nuts or breads complementing it.
Right.
Exclusively dairy and fruit together.
I see what you mean.
I need more balance if I'm going to be combining two things.
Yeah. Okay. You need more base.
Mhm.
Yeah. Base is what you're missing. If
It's
you just
all
have
about
fruit
that
and cheese.
base. About that base. No trouble.
No trouble.
Or cranberries and cheese.
Yes.
It's all
Okay.
about that
So
cheese.
we are in a world
Oh, no, not this again. Please.
where cheese has been outlawed.
By who?
Big fruit.
Goddamn big fruit.
Cheese has been outlawed by the government is now controlled by big
Can
fruit.
this please be a Western where all the characters are foods?
Sure,
Yes,
sure.
yeah.
So cheese has been outlawed by the government that is controlled by Big Fruit. And but it's like it's a Western, right? So the government is kind of just like the sheriff, basically, of the town. And then everyone else is kind of like vigilantes, or like they're in their squad, their posse.
Right.
There's no like large government entity, really.
Can the main character be the wheel of cheese from the Cheez-Its commercials?
So like no face,
Yeah,
just a wheel of cheese.
just a wheel of cheese.
Right. Sure.
We could roll with that.
Oh, I wasn't expecting such strong support of
Okay.
of that.
So you want okay, what type of movie is this other than a Western? Like what is our goal? What is the things happening in this world that we could that we're trying to tell the story of?
Well, it seems first thing that jumps to my mind is if you have a story where a type of like person, in this case cheese, is outlawed or like banished for some reason, at the end they come back to the place that they were once disallowed from.
Okay.
Right. It's like Footloose.
Just like Footloose.
With cheese.
Cheese.
With cheese.
And a Western.
So cheese is outlawed, but cheese are people.
Cheese are people. Cheese are people.
Cheese are people.
Yeah.
And so are fruit. Big fruit.
Big fruit.
And the fruits is this a war movie?
Please no. Please God no.
The fruits have taken over the town. Do the cheese still live there, or are they like cast out like into the wilderness?
I guess a question I have, are we thinking literally about big fruit? Like, is it like, obviously like
Right.
the parallel between like big pharma's there?
Yeah.
Or are they just like gigantic?
I think they
'Cause
Both?
If they're gigantic fruit, the cheeses would definitely be driven out of town, because like who would want to live in a town
with
where they're
big
going to
fruit.
get trampled on by an apple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a giant blueberry, like what's her name from
Violet
Violet
from Charlie and
from
Chocolate
Charlie
Factory.
and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's what year is it?
What time are westerns set in?
Like 1880s, 1870s, 1860s.
I'll take
Latter
your word
half
for
of
it.
the 19th century.
Yeah.
Were there any fruits developed after that time that we like?
Well, bananas are quite different.
Yeah, bananas are different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we going for historical accuracy here?
So
If
they're
we're gonna put it-
plantains.
They could be plantains.
Just like I found out that all citrus, except for mandarin oranges, this very specific variant of lemons, and some other third thing, are like man-made.
Really?
Yeah. They're all like
As in
bred
GMOs?
specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Kind of like bananas.
Damn.
Interesting. Apparently, I've heard, I don't know if this is true.
Many people are saying this.
Many people are saying this. I've heard that bananas, you know
Right.
the banana Laffy Taffy?
Yeah,
Banaffy taffy.
You know what it tastes like?
I do.
It doesn't quite taste like bananas.
Not a banana.
Not even close.
But apparently, the species of banana that went extinct because we like overfarmed them tastes like banana Laffy Taffy.
Has Laffy Taffy been around that?
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently it's because Laffy Taffy was made while those bananas were still around. And they were the prominent
Wow.
banana type. Yeah. People are saying this.
Many people are saying this.
I wish
That's
more people were
crazy.
saying it.
I honestly, yeah.
Spread the word.
So we have a town in 1868 full of big fruits and small cheeses.
Very small cheeses.
And the big fruits run the cheeses out of town, and they're forced to live off the land in the wilderness. Now, are we doing classic Western structure where there's like man versus nature, but nature is like savages?
Like,
Who are our savages?
and not the fruit.
No, the fruit is like the civilized, they're just opposing the cheese. But then there's always some other element of like a group of people who live in nature, and they are like the savages, or just like the nature people. They're not like the part of what is considered like the civilized culture.
Yeah. Maybe they team up with like
that's
some other banished. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. But what would the other banished group be? Who else has big fruit trampled on?
What if it was a group that the cheeses originally pushed out because they were, even though they're small, they were bigger. And so it's just like this, like,
interesting.
The enemy just keeps getting bigger. It could be nuts. It could be nuts.
Okay. So we've got big fruit, medium cheese, small nut. And when big fruit comes in and kicks out medium cheese, we'll say mild cheese, they are driven out to the wilderness, and then they find the small nuts, and they were like, we thought we killed all you guys or whatever. And actually the nuts are like, no, we have created a society in the food wilderness
that's better
than the dusty, rusty, crusty ass town that they're rolling up into because it's a Western.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's gonna be some dry fruit.
Be some
do they
dry
got
ass
fruit moisturizer or something?
Yeah, they got
fruit
like a
moisturizer.
Did you guys ever watch Doctor Who? And there's this. Do you remember? I forget her name. She's just like a string of skin, and she would just get sprayed with water.
Okay.
And she kept saying like, "Moisturize me."
What Doctor Who are you watching?
Holy
okay.
shit.
It was like it first appeared like when the Earth was blowing up, and the Doctor took, I think it was Rose, to space to watch the Earth blow up, the end of the Earth. And one of the characters, she's like an elite high official. She was just skin, like a trampoline of skin, but she would dry out.
Oh, you know what? I vaguely remember this. Yeah.
That was just the first thing that came to mind when we were thinking about the dried fruit in the desert.
Right.
Like they have, like, what if they have little hench people that just sprayed them?
Interesting.
Hench cheese.
Hench cheese.
Hench fruit. Or would they?
Did they keep some of the cheeses around? And so then the other cheeses they're trying to free.
Yeah.
The enslaved cheeses.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the impetus for the us versus them mindset? Like, why do the fruits not like the cheese, and why do the cheese not like the nuts?
I was interpreting as it's not really like the fruits don't like the cheese. It's like the fruits. It's like a colonization thing. They just like want that land. They just want that space.
Oh.
For like fruit kind, for big fruit.
Oh, so did they not once all live together?
It's possible that they did, yeah. But now the fruits are trying to take over.
Right. So it's more of like a war thing, is what you're saying.
So it's a war film.
Is it a war film?
Wait, so were they in the same town, same society before, and then slowly the cheeses first pushed out the nuts and then the fruit pushed out the cheeses? Or are they like an outside coming in like, oh, this is a nice little dusty town.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just push these cheeses aside and take over.
I don't know. What do you want, guest?
I think there's a lot more to play with if they got along first.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So they have a history.
They have a history. A charcuterie culture.
Right.
If you dare.
The charcuterie culture, right. The
You know how they call
charcuterie
America a melting pot? It's really more of a charcuterie board.
the charcuterie cult.
Charcuterie cult.
Sure.
Cult.
Big fruit
Big fruit.
Big fruit.
created
Yeah.
a cult.
Yep.
A faction of the fruit population
Uh-huh.
just grew way too big.
And then
created
they
a cult.
They were experimenting with GMOs to grow themselves bigger.
Oh.
Juicier.
Were they experimenting
More resistant to drought.
on the nuts as well? and that's why they got so small.
Oh, interesting. The preliminary experiments were on the nuts, and those went wrong.
And so then the big fruit blamed it on the cheeses for driving out the nuts, when in reality it was always big fruit.
Oh. That's good.
The plot thickens.
Okay, so 1868, Western town full of big fruit, cheese, and nuts. Big Fruit was experimenting on the nuts for GMOs. It went wrong, blamed it on the cheese so that the nuts resent the cheese. And then Big Fruit finally got their GMOs to work, and they've been growing bigger and bigger fruits to then take over the cheese town.
Cheese. Yeah. And I think we think, the audience thinks, that the cheeses really did drive out the nuts.
Right.
Until later.
That's
so
twist.
let's go to like plot structure, right? So first act of the film, right? Intro to the film is just like, we established this Western town, just full of cheeses, whatever.
Fruits.
Is our main character a cheese?
I assume so.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'd be open for something else. Because it could be like a story about like one character from each of the three food groups coming together to become a true charcuterie board.
Right. The charcuterie board.
The town of board.
The charcuterie board of peace.
Peas?
Or charcuterie board of peas.
What if it was an outside food that was just observing all of this happening?
Like a documentary?
Like a pea, but documented. Yeah, a documentary documented by a pea.
Documented by a pea.
So is he like a news reporter? So he's going in and like interviewing people, or is he just like always on the outskirts, just watching?
It's just like a small green ball just rolling around. The cheeses have no idea what's going on.
Hey, buddy.
I've never seen something like that in my life.
I'd like to ask you some questions.
Never seen a green cheese before.
Okay. So we have a P that is a investigative news reporter / documentarian
From the big city.
from the big city. That's right, because we're out west.
The big P.
The big P.
Big P, as they call it.
Yeah.
It's like the bean in Chicago. the P.
Yeah. The queen bee. Queen P.
P.
Queen P.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the story is from the P's perspective. Is that what we're saying?
I like that, yeah.
Yeah. But then eventually it just gets deeper, more involved in it, that it just gets wrapped up in the action as well.
Yeah.
And has to either choose a side or create its own side to try to create peas.
Interesting.
To try to create peas.
So is it actually
Exactly.
a documentary at first, or is it like a drama where the character itself is like the person coming in to document the P itself? I think it would be more fun if it was initially a documentary and then it like did this whole like transition into
And
like.
Are we
just an
talking
actual-
about like nature documentary style, like David Attenborough, always like voiceover, or documentary style as in like interviews?
I'm thinking interviews, but
So is it
I don't
interviews?
know.
Is it interviews after everything has happened, and they're talking about what did happen, and then it goes to clips of like the P as those things are happening?
So this is our after the fact.
Yeah, this would be like interviews after the fact.
Could be interesting.
That's how it starts. And then as each of our characters from each of the one fruit, one cheese, and one nut each get interviewed and tell their part of each of the questions that the interviewer asks. And then it shows from their perspective the different.
It's a triptych.
Yeah, it's a triptych. So it starts in the documentary style, but then we go into like these longer story bits that are like about each of those characters' perspective of that event.
And do they collide at the end?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, they have to, because then they all end up being interviewed at the same time.
And so do each of their perspectives change then? Skew what the audience understands as the actual truth of the story?
Yeah, I would think so. And then you'd present it in a way that, like, maybe the way that the nut saw the story gives a very specific view of the cheese and the fruit. But then then later in the film, we see that same event play out from the cheese perspective. And then you have more backstory from the cheese, and then you understand that better. And then you get, later, then you get backstory of the fruit, and then you understand that better.
Isn't this a Kurosawa movie?
I have no idea.
I think, what's it called? Rashomon.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Kind of distasteful plot, I guess.
Right.
But it goes along those same lines where, like, each of the three people that are involved in this crime give different perspectives,
versions of the story. Yeah, I think that could be fun because then the P is interviewing all of them. He's got like glasses and like a little notepad and a pencil.
He's got a little hat.
Yeah, he's got a little hat. He hops in.
So it's basically like VeggieTales.
It's like VeggieTales, yeah.
Is it gonna get religious?
Sure. I mean, it's the 1860s.
Well, it could be the religion that separates the three food groups.
Oh, interesting.
Like the nuts, maybe they could make their own religions. We could make up religions, or
well, if you said food groups, and if you think about the food pyramid, they're all in different food groups. Maybe the food pyramid is like the pyramid of religion.
So then are they each, is what initially causes the conflict and why Big Fruit is so adamant about becoming bigger is so that they're able to access whatever's in the food pyramid, fulfill a prophecy?
Prophecy, yeah.
Or perhaps there's an item or some ancient text.
Yeah, do we want like an artifact, an item of some kind that needs to be obtained? Item of power
in order to do what, to grow larger?
Yeah, to like spread influence, like civilization. The video game.
What if it was meant to create peace and balance throughout the land, and it was actually the board in which all the charcuterie
it's the quest for the board to create one charcuterie to rule them all.
Oh my god. So what if the land itself is like the hypothetical board? Because land is frequently important in westerns.
This is true.
So they're on a charcuterie board.
I mean, not visually.
Well, maybe.
I think just having one really big flat wooden slab.
And it really is VeggieTales. They're in the kitchen on the board. But maybe, yeah, you're right. So the land is big, but maybe at some point they venture really far out and they find the edge of the board.
So it's basically a flat Earth movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they fall off the edge of the board
into a new world.
And then the
pyramid.
The religion. So they have this idea. They have like the religious values. We don't need to get into the specifics.
Yeah.
But when they fall off the board, the religious values are challenged when some sort of sentient, all-knowing being picks them up and puts them back on the charcuterie board. Humans. Yeah. So humans are their gods, but they don't really know that.
Wow.
Okay.
And it completely changes. It's like the scene in Life of Brian when the alien comes in. It's like totally unwarranted, but it's funny because it's very unexpected.
Exactly. So they're actively falling off the board. It's like a black void.
Yeah.
They have no idea what's going to happen. They think they're just going to fall forever. And they get caught by a large hand that then puts them back on top of the board and like gives them a little pat. Leaves.
So this kind of sets up that like at the end they're all just going to get like chopped up or like
in Sausage Party.
It's a sausage.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, we're just making Sausage Party, aren't we?
Does their discovery of the human then shape the course of what they were initially trying to do then, because they realize how powerful this human is.
Maybe they start to realize that a lot of the stuff that their society and beliefs are built on came from humans. Like maybe the ancient text that shows the food pyramid is like a laminated piece of paper.
It's like a Betty Crocker
Yeah.
cooking.
That's like the health benefits. And maybe there was some secret ancient recipe that they used, the fruits used to grow, and it's just like this like how to rehydrate grapes like tutorial.
Yeah.
And they start to realize that everything they know is just these perfectly curated pieces.
Yeah.
So then are they, I guess, how do they get over the big fruits pushing them out?
Mm-hmm.
Are they able to come together in order to rally against the humans? Does it take some convincing? Is P involved?
I don't think they necessarily need to rally against the humans. I think the human aspect is just, I think that's the turning point in the film when they start to realize stuff. But I don't think humans need to play a huge role in the film. I think it can still be with the fruits, the cheeses, and the nuts. But I do think at some point, yeah, they have to like come together and convince the fruits of something or overcome some challenge or whatever. Or maybe they come back with all these new enlightened ideas, but because they went to the end of the board and saw the giant human hand.
They realize they're not alone in the universe.
They're not alone in the universe, but nobody else likes that. And so they try to like, you know, like witch trials. They try to like run them out or put them in jail or whatever.
Yeah, that's why they don't like the cheese in the first place. Maybe that event happened before. And the cheese are trying to...
Maybe
and
that
the
was...
peas they're trying to figure out if they're right.
Yeah, so the cheese, they knew that because the cheese do an annual pilgrimage to the edge,
of the charcuterie
board. And so they know the true reality. And they're trying to convince all the other food groups of this reality. And they're all like, no, that's wrong. You're going to jail.
Wow.
Going to cheese jail.
You're going to cheese jail. And so the reason that it was religiously motivated that the cheese were run out of their town. It was like a crusade.
Mm.
So did the nuts know about it too then? Or were they just too small?
That's yeah. Maybe the nuts don't initially know, but maybe when we find out is when the cheeses, the nuts are like, okay, fine, we'll hear you out, and the cheeses show them the edge of the board, and then the nuts are convinced, and then
they join forces,
join the cheese, to make nutty cheese or cheesy nuts.
Cheesy nuts, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Like what do we talk about now?
Well, my other thought was that when you look at the food pyramid, what are the biggest food groups?
Well, so we're missing grains and meats.
Grains is the biggest one, right?
It is.
And then after that is fruits and vegetables, then meat and cheese, then oils and fats, which I think is what nuts go into. They go into oils and fats?
I think so.
Probably.
Maybe.
They should have their own.
Maybe that's why they're the smallest group.
Yep.
And then the dairy and meat are on the same level. And then fruits and vegetables are on the same level. And the grains is like the big group.
What if they encountered a grain before the humans and thought, what if they worshipped the grain? Because that was the biggest thing that they could have possibly known.
Right.
And then when the bread disappeared because it was getting toasted for the charcuterie board.
Right.
They had this big meltdown.
They had this big meltdown. Society collapsed. Fruit took over.
And the cheese continued to believe that there was something bigger than the grain.
The grain.
Which is the humans, which they prove to the pea.
Who then convinces the nuts.
Right.
When he's documenting their story.
Right.
And then those two join together to go to the big fruit.
But their battle gets cut off short because they start getting eaten.
So now we are doing sausage party.
Is that? I feel like it's sausage party mixed with Holy Grail.
Okay. Yeah.
And Veggie Tales.
So then it is a war movie.
No,
Because
it is kind of
on their trek back, there's just human hands and giant things start coming from the sky
Yeah.
to try to grab them and kill them.
Yeah.
And then they're like in the trenches. It's now a war film.
This is kind of a sidetrack, and it's a very small detail. But we mentioned earlier that the cheese wheel
Yeah.
was like the Cheez-It cheese wheel.
Yeah.
Are we imagining they don't have any face whatsoever, and they're just these like stop motion fruits
They could be
with
stop motion,
with like voiceovers?
Stop motion fruit. Oh.
Stop motion could be great.
Yeah, it could. We've really been neglecting like what these things actually look like.
Yeah, okay. So stop motion, animated fruit, cheese, and nut. Is the human hand stop motion?
No.
Or it just comes in there and
Yeah, you could just be quick with it, right?
yeah.
Have movement. You can cut the frame like, in
Okay.
half, and then once they like pick it up.
Right.
Every movie that we've discussed so far, we could not make. Like, realistically. But we could go home right now
And make
and
this.
start making this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We just need
Cheese, nuts, bread,
yeah,
fruit, big fruit,
big fruit.
big fruit.
Well, I mean,
build a little town on a little
Charcuterie board.
charcuterie board.
Yeah.
Just a little mini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could have like the Bluebell cheese things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and those would be about
Yes.
the right size, and then the fruits could be like
We're gonna have to get a big ass board though for this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and cover it in like sand
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
to make it a western.
We could just get if we're covering the board, we could just get sand.
Yeah.
What if they dig and find the board and realize? Like,
So it's
we're all
it's
on
got
the
a
same
few
board?
layers of
It's got
sand,
layers.
and
Wow.
they
It's
get to
got
a point
layers.
they
Yeah,
can't go
that's
any
good.
deeper.
And that's part of the cheese's reason for believing there's something higher than
Because they found
Grains.
the board.
Right.
yeah. And they're like, who put this here?
Get out me swamp.
Get help me.
Okay. So now we need to talk about. We fleshed out a lot of story ideas. Now we need to talk about who is playing
Well, wait, do we
Holy
have?
shit.
So we have.
characters.
We have. What is it? 4 main characters.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So the pea,
Yeah.
the main nut, the main cheese,
Yeah.
and the main fruit.
Okay. Let's decide right now. Actually, no. We'll decide who's going to play them, and then based on who's going to play each, we will decide what type of those things they are.
Fair.
So the P. Who can do like a New York news reporter accent?
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
Do they have to be alive?
No.
That didn't narrow it down.
The Kool-Aid Man.
You want
The
Kool-Aid Man.
Oh,
to be-
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You cheeses.
He talks exactly like that. Okay, so the Kool-Aid Man playing the P. Maybe our P is like a rare red P
The red pea.
because he's full of Kool-Aid.
Because he drank Kool-Aid before coming on set.
Yeah. Okay, what about our?
Oh my god! Wait, sorry. A red pea,
Yeah.
right? I guess the question we didn't ask is why is a pea on a charcuterie board?
Oh, fuck. We didn't think of that, did we?
Well,
A red pea. What if he thought his entire life he was a pea,
yeah.
but in fact he was a little goji berry, part of the charcuterie board,
Interesting.
but a lost element and last of the group.
So at the end of the film, they realize they need the P/goji berry.
to make the charcuterie board complete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's the final piece of the puzzle,
Final,
voiced by the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah. Final P, former P's. Yeah.
Yep. Final piece.
So the main character is a goji berry,
Who thinks
voiced
he's a
by the
pea.
Kool-Aid Man,
yeah.
who thinks he's a pea.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, our main fruit. Who's going to voice our main fruit? Or what should our main fruit be?
I'm assuming they're the antagonist.
Yeah.
What if it was Angelina Jolie?
Angelina Jolie as what fruit?
Well, what if there was like a joke where it was like, it's a tomato, which like is a fruit, but everybody thinks it's a vegetable?
Yep.
So Angelina Jolie is a giant tomato. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then we can play on the fact that people don't know if it's a fruit or a vegetable. Okay.
Yeah.
Cheese. Who's the most cheesy person you know? Just so much
Oh,
cheese.
Eric Wareheim or Tim Heidecker from Tim and Eric.
Right.
Awesome show, great job. I feel.
Right. Okay.
One of them is the cheesiest.
Well, which one?
Oh yeah, Eric Wareheim.
Okay. So we'll do Eric from Tim and Eric fame.
Would he be
What type of cheese?
like a sharp cheddar?
Like he's
More of
sharp?
a-
What if he's going back to what we first talked about? What if he's got the
got
fruit in
fruit?
him,
Oh.
and that leads to an identity crisis?
Yeah.
Am I fruit or am I cheese?
He is like the Avatar. He'll bridge the two worlds.
Wow.
But there's actually like 5 worlds because we got the goji berry, we got the fucking human, and the bread, and the
Okay, so Eric from Tim and Eric fame. And then finally the nut. Who's the nuttiest person you know? I got one who's coming to mind. The Nutty Professor. AKA
Who? Eddie.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
I think, yeah, Eddie Murphy.
That's a little nut. He'd be a little, like,
That's
a little
small nut.
like an almond or a cashew.
I'm thinking like a very tiny almond. Like, like just
Like the
this-
runt of the litter, the runt of the almond
Yeah.
litter.
Yeah. Or like when you open a peanut shell and sometimes the peanut's like super tiny. So he's a tiny almond. So we have, to recap, Kool-Aid Man.
as the goji berry.
As the
who thinks
goji
it's
berry
a
who
pea.
thinks he's a pea. Angelina Jolie as a tomato. And nobody knows whether she's a fruit or a vegetable.
But she insists she's a fruit.
Yeah.
She's the biggest fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric from Tim and Eric fame as a cheese that has fruit inside of him
What if he's voiced by 2 people?
Oh.
because the cheese is one person and the fruit is a different person.
But they're also the same person.
Because the cheese has a tragic backstory where he got melted and then recongealed with fruit inside of him. He was like a
So it was
weird hybrid.
Originally a cheese.
Yeah. And during the fruit testing,
Oh,
they were
interesting.
testing if they could hybridize the food groups.
As an escaped cheese.
Yeah.
And so would it be both Tim and Eric then?
Could be.
Yeah, I think so. And then Eddie Murphy as small nut.
Small almond.
Small almond
Small
nut.
almond nut.
Okay. Great. So we have our cast. we, we have most of our story beats. We need to figure out how this film ends and any other elements we want to include. We have decided it's stop motion.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It is stop motion where the fruits like slide across the floor,
Yeah.
but the pea bounces because it's funny.
Goji berry.
Mm-hmm.
Goji berry pea. So in the end, do they just all get eaten? Is it like Sausage Party where they just all get chopped up and eaten?
It kind of feels like a cop out.
Well, didn't Sausage Party end with a sex scene?
Maybe. I've never seen more than like half of it.
I think there was definitely a part where they all got eaten.
Yeah, there's like a scene in the grocery store.
Yeah, it's like
And
a
they're all, like,
horror
fucking-
scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody starts freaking out.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should repeat that.
Well, I mean, Seth Rogen's a genius. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, because we said that the P / Goji Berry's arc, so he realizes he's not a P, and has to become the final piece that makes the perfect charcuterie board. So maybe all the groups are fighting, and the P, he's like the news reporter, right? And he's trying to bring everybody together to reveal this story so that they all can become peaceful. But it isn't until he sacrifices himself and realizes that he is not a P and accepts that he is a very small red goji berry that they all come together and they realize how much he sacrificed to try to make everybody be peaceful.
So was the goji berry eaten first? Like he offered himself up to be eaten.
Oh, do you think that he should like sacrifice himself and then everybody's like, holy shit, he just sacrificed himself?
Yeah,
like,
we already talked about it being a religious film.
he's a martyr.
What if he jumps off the edge of that charcuterie board? People think he killed himself.
Interesting.
That changes their minds. But then the hand
would pick him up.
Yeah. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is pretty.
This is wild. Okay.
Kind of a little bit nutty.
Ayo.
Sorry.
Funny sound break. Okay.
Glad we got that out of our systems.
It's time to do that.
All right. So the goji berry jumps off the board. He knows that the hand will pick him up, but nobody else does. So they all think that he sacrificed himself.
Except for, what if what if each of the three main characters somehow fell at the same time? Like each of their triptych parts
Yeah.
like ended with them like fighting or something.
Yeah.
Brawling, they accidentally fall off. So each of those three characters know the actual truth.
Yeah.
And so when the goji berry sacrifices himself, everyone else is like freaking out, except for the three characters.
Interesting.
And they like start rallying the rest of the people to join together.
Right.
Like, why are we fighting? We're a board.
We're one board.
We're one board. Look beneath your, I was gonna say feet, but they don't have feet.
Look beneath your fleshy body.
Yourself.
Yourself. Dig.
Dig with your self.
Use the cashews as a shovel.
So this is a film of like not self-actualization, but like, I don't know, bringing a group together, convincing them all to like work as one unit, to stop fighting and to come together to have peaceful time,
To end war.
to end war.
It's a war movie. Weird.
We kind of lost the Western element.
Yeah. Yeah, we did kind of lose a little.
That's okay. It'll be we won't talk about the Western at all, but every character will be in a Western themed costume.
Fair. And there's sand.
And there's sand. Therefore Western.
And they talk like this.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start trying to make a log line. There's a lot here to process, so I think this is going to take us a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We came up with a lot of story beats and a lot of different elements that we wanted to include.
Should we start just with like bullet points?
Yeah, let's start with bullet points.
All right, so we got triptych structure.
Yes.
We got nuts, cheese, fruits colliding.
They do indeed collide in stop motion.
In stop motion. It's technically a Western war movie.
All of them live on a charcuterie board.
Yes.
Western / documentary. That's also something we haven't talked about in a while.
Yes. I think the documentary element got personified by the P /
triptych.
Goji Berry
Yeah.
and triptych structure. So they're on a charcuterie board.
There's religious revolution.
Yes. There's each group is defined by their food group. So there's an ancient text that is the food pyramid.
Mm-hmm. There's genetically modifying practices.
Yes. So the fruits are the first to experiment with GMOs,
creating outcasts of the other groups.
Yes. Which is the origin story for our cheese character.
Yes.
Voiced by both Tim and Eric of Tim and Eric fame.
Should just write the whole script at this point.
Honestly,
it's
like
harder to do just the log line.
A lot of moving parts here.
Okay. So it's going to be a long log line because there's 3 main characters, right?
I mean, I think their journeys are all...
Are their journeys together? Or are they each still separate until they convene at the end?
I feel like the nut is separate. And then the cheese and the fruits are still living together, but the fruits have a really big, like, rule over them.
What if Angelina Jolie's fruit was chasing after the cheese?
Trying to run them out of town?
Well, because he's an escaped cheese.
Oh, I see. So she's like the sheriff or like a deputy that's like trying to find this escapee.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That is a Western element as well.
And the nutty nut is just like doing its own thing.
They find him somewhere out there.
Yeah. And somehow
Right.
the goji berry got all of this on camera.
In 1868.
I didn't even think about that part of it.
He's got one of those cameras where they got to like put it up on the stand and then put the thing over his head and like crank it.
But it also takes videos.
Yeah.
Was that even in 1868? I feel like that was a couple of decades after.
Yeah, probably.
Cool.
It's okay. It's a
I'm trying to be as realistic as I can.
yeah, like honestly, it seems like one of the most important pieces of this fruit cheese nut based film is that we get the time period absolutely correct.
Oh, there's the grains. So the fruits believe the
the
grain is like their god, and he goes away.
Yes, to be made into toast.
And they're expecting the second coming of grain.
Okay, yeah. The second coming of grain. I just want you to write that note down.
So the goji berry sacrifices themselves.
Yeah.
What reason exactly? Is it to
I think maybe
send a message?
yeah,
Be a
probably to
martyr?
send a message because maybe he was trying to convince everyone to come together and stop fighting, but they wouldn't listen. So then he throws himself off the side of the charcuterie board.
They don't actually die.
No, but nobody knows that except for our main 3 who have fallen off of the side of the board in the past.
And is this documented?
That they've fallen off?
Yeah, does the goji berry document this?
Yes, because
that's
that's
how
how the
we know.
goji berry knows. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's good. That's good.
That's good. This is good. Write that down.
How the queen fruit?
Yeah.
Why does she fall off? She doesn't seem like the kind of character that would do it intentionally.
The tomato?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably accidental.
Maybe
Like
the cheese and her both fall off because they're like fighting because she's chasing him and then they like accidentally fall off.
Yeah, and the nut happens at the same time too. Like they're all like wrestling.
Yeah. They're all wrestling.
Wrestle boys.
They have these
wrestle.
different storylines that then converge at that point.
Yeah.
So like the nut wants something, and then the cheese is on the run, and the tomato is chasing the cheese.
I feel like the nut needs to be fleshed out. What exactly is the nut doing?
Um,
He's like
Well, are we still going with like that the cheese ran the nuts out of town, or like the nuts are just like one of the smallest groups, and so they're very easily like taken advantage of or like sort of ignored?
I still like the idea that the cheeses were framed for having done experiments on the nuts.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So the nuts were actually driven out by
What if
the fruit.
What if the nut was out to get a cheese? Like, try to avenge.
Oh, I see.
His
It's just a
nut
little
family.
nut, so it's kind of goofy, and you're like laughing.
Maybe-
because he's not gonna
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, maybe he's like a younger nut that like has to prove himself.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to go take down a cheese and then my father will love me.
Yeah. And so both of them
Father nut.
end up chasing the cheese.
Yeah.
The fruit cheese.
They're both chasing the cheese, but they don't realize that they're both chasing the cheese until that moment where they're
And
about
then they
to fall off.
collide,
And then they collide.
and they fall off.
Yeah.
And the goji berry documents it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then sees the hand in very like
And he's
like camcorder style. He's like zoomed in, and then a big hand goes up. He zooms out. And it's like all shaky cam
Yeah.
in stop motion
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board in a kitchen
in a kitchen.
covered with sand.
So yeah, the nut is also trying. He's like trying to prove himself. So he's also chasing the cheese because he sees the cheese like running. Because the nuts live out in like the wilderness because they're dry. Right? They don't need as much water, so they can live out there. Kind of like the people from Dune. But he sees the cheese and he's like, "This is my chance. I'm gonna prove myself. I'm gonna go kill this cheese."
I like that.
Yeah. And then after they fall up and they're brought up, then they're all like, whoa, everything changed. Like, fruit doesn't want to get after the cheese anymore because everything she's been told has been lied to her.
Right.
The nut realizes this cheese didn't do anything to me.
Right.
But the other fruits are still like mad at. They still want the cheeses out and the nuts out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe the queen, but the queen has this arc.
Yeah.
Right. I'm liking this.
And then that's why the goji berry falls off, because there still has to be that conflict for him to be a martyr.
Is there like a very clear bad fruit then? Because obviously, like, the queen fruit is bad in the beginning, quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
But then, like, would another fruit rebel against the queen and say, no, we need to drive these people off? Almost as if, like, the bad fruit was influencing the queen's decisions, like feeding her lies the entire time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
he's like a dried out grape, also known as a raisin.
Really-
A raisin.
really big grape.
Yeah.
Really big
A
raisin.
large raisin.
Perhaps a prune.
A prune, if
Oh,
you will.
shit. Oh, I forgot about prunes.
I also forgot about prunes. So there's this raggedy prune,
Deputy prune.
deputy prune, who's feeding lies to Angelina Jolie tomato.
Yeah. Is she like a full tomato, like a Roma tomato, or is she a cherry tomato?
I was thinking she was like a full,
I was picturing
like
full
big
tomato.
tomato. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
cool.
Maybe in the epilogue, when she has kids, they're
A little cherries.
little cherry.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Okay, so we need to turn all of that into 2 sentences.
Fuck.
A goji berry who thinks he's a pea. Goji berry in parentheses, Kool-Aid man. That thinks he's a pea. Documents the religious struggles, conflicts,
Religious
Arcs.
arcs
arcs of
of 3
distinct food groups.
distinct
Colon.
food groups, fruit,
cheese, and nuts.
in parentheses, Angelina Jolie tomato.
I think
Tim
we've
and,
forgotten what a log line is at some point along this.
Tim and Eric, cheese with fruit in it.
I'm not writing that shit.
Okay, read it back.
Goji berry,
Yep.
Kool-Aid man, who thinks he's a pea,
Yep.
documents the religious arcs of 3 distinct food groups: fruits, cheeses, and nuts.
Yep.
This stop-motion Western
Ooh, okay.
tells the story of enlightenment and sacrifice in the face of some bad
Opposing ideals, opposing...
Conflicting ideals. Do we already use conflict in the first one? First one?
No.
No, conflicting ideals. Opposing works too.
Should it be something about like the hierarchy or the like bad fruit, big fruit? Like
I mean,
Yeah.
like the fruits, the goji berry at least is able to become enlightened and sacrifice despite this. What's the word for like
In the face of food hierarchies.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the only way to describe
power. Yeah.
It doesn't sound pretty, but it's like
it. That's how else are you going to describe it? Like food hierarchies. All right, read me.
Goji Berry, Kool-Aid Man, who thinks he's a pea, documents the religious arcs of 3 distinct food groups: fruits, cheeses, and nuts. This stop-motion Western tells the story of enlightenment and sacrifice in the face of food hierarchies.
I think that works.
That's good.
I think that works. Okay, we need a title. The guest always picks the title.
Oh, jeez. Can I have a little help? At
Okay,
least?
all right.
Are we thinking it's like a sweet one-word title? Or I was thinking it's more poetic.
Interesting. Okay. So you're going for multi-word titles.
Yes.
Almost like a sentence.
Sub-sentence.
Sub-sentence. Gotcha. Okay. So the
To be or charcuterie.
Yo, that is fucking good.
that is great. To be or charcuterie.
Is that it?
I think that's it. Yeah, I don't know if we can get much better.
That was straight from the dome. All right, Julian, give us one last read through of To Be and Charcuterie.
A Goji Berry, Kool-Aid Man, who thinks he's a pea, documents the religious arcs of 3 distinct food groups: fruits, cheeses, and nuts. This stop-motion Western tells the story of enlightenment and sacrifice in the face of food hierarchies.
Now that's movies.
Right there. That was great. That was awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
I think that's one of our best yet.
That is a good one. We fleshed out so many story elements.
Yeah.
Usually we get like 1 or 2 main beats, and then maybe we'll get the progression, and that's about it. But we like know the story of this.
That's a full plot right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a lot of layers.
Just like ogres, which are like onions, which have layers.
Like ogres.
You know, birthday cakes have layers too.
Which are like ogres, which are like onions, which have layers.
Like our movie.
Like our movie, which is like birthday cakes, which are like ogres, which are like onions, which have layers.
Does anything else have layers?
Strata, like the Earth.
Oh,
the Earth
yeah.
has layers.
The
The
earth,
atmosphere.
which is the atmosphere,
Layers.
which is like the earth, which is like cake, which is like ogres, which are like onions, which have layers.
Yeah.
Great. Glad we did that bit.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben, for joining us today. Is there anything you'd like to shout out before you leave?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
That's
having
all.
us.
That's it? Nothing you want to shout out?
Follow me on Instagram. I'm not gonna give you the tag.
Oh,
You're gonna have to find me.
You gotta find him.
Reverse Google image search, like use your face to try and get it.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, and thanks for listening, and bye.
Bye.